Guys, and we are back and moving on to the blind round. As was said before, the generalizations were to pick a director from the list I gave them, and then, of course, to name a Chris Evans film. For the first question, the second question will be, what is the best Chris Evans film? Before this first question, it is, which of the listed directors has the worst overall work with Samuel L. Jackson? M. Night Shyamalan and Spike Lee were the two that were picked up. I can't understand why nobody wanted to go for classic directors like Patrick Hughes or Kazi Lemons outside of the fact that you definitely have to Google what the fuck they made. By the way, the answer is the Hitman's Bodyguard movies and a couple of dramas in the 90s. So with that said, we're going to jump into this. Continuing the trend from the first few questions, Austin, you are going first on this question. So I'll throw you the timer, and it will start when you begin speaking. And as always, guys, a continued best of luck on the match.
So a lot of the reasons people go to watch sort of a Sam Jackson performance is they have some kind of an expectation. They want to see sort of him be really big, have that charisma that we go to see, maybe drop a couple of F-bombs. We want to see all that kind of thing. But what M. Night Shyamalan did with him that was really not great is he sat him in a wheelchair and gave him a very monotone script to deliver and delivers basically exposition the entire movie. It's not one of the things that Sam Jackson is really known for. It's one of the things that comes out very awkwardly when you watch the movie. He's just literally every scene he's just spouting exposition, spouting dialogue when he really should be, giving kind of an overtop performance, even though that's not really what the movie's designed for. But we're talking about Sam Jackson, and it's disappointing when you actually watch the movie. When you watch something like Unbreakable and he's giving that sort of monotone, non-charismatic performance. You have stuff like Glass where he's completely put in the back seat and M. Night Shyamalan actually mutes him for the first half of the movie. Why would you mute a guy like Sam Jackson who has such a way with words, who could be delivering this great performance, and he gets muted for the entire first half of the film? It's really kind of sad.
And time. All right, Amaru, back over to you.
If you are going to do something like talk about blackface, you better do it right. And there's this movie called Bamboozled that Samuel L. Jackson is in that is an utter and despicable failure of a movie in what it's trying to do. So the worst thing that Spike Lee has ever done that has Samuel L. Jackson in it is definitely the movie Bamboozled. It's about Damon Wayans trying to reintegrate a company, a television show or a television series, because he used to be a TV mogul, and the way he wants to do it is have a satire on blackface. It has Savion Glover in it. The reason Savion Glover is one of the most famous tap dancers of all time. The reason I mentioned it is because the best part of the entire movie is him tap dancing, because you like his tap dancing. Other than that, the movie has got to try to be funny. It is not funny. It's got to try to be subversive. It ends up just making you feel sick to your stomach, and it's a slog. It is utterly too long, and it is absolutely despicable.
All right. Austin, we're going to go back over to you. 2 minutes on the clock when ready.
Well, I'm sorry, Brew, you may find this hard to believe, but I haven't seen Bamboozled. So I'll talk about some of Sam Jackson's other overall work, as the question asks, with Spike Lee, and it's definitely not the worst. With Samuel L. Jackson, Sam Jackson was recognized by a guy with Spike Lee, especially in the 80s and the early 90s, before he was an established film star, and gave him these nice, meaty, kind of juicy roles that are very memorable in these big ensemble pieces like Do the Right Thing and Jungle Fever, and gives him very memorable scenes, like the I Want to Get High scene and the scene with Ruby Dee and Jungle Fever. Shows that he could actually stand up to actors like that even in his early career. And I know it wasn't early in his life. I know Sam Jackson was already, I believe, in his late 30s or 40s when he kind of started acting. But Spike Lee was able to recognize that talent early on and give him these sort of roles where he gave him the opportunity to stand out. And I think Sam Jackson was kind of forever bolstered by that, and that's why other directors picked up on him in his later works, as opposed to somebody like M. Night Shyamalan, who again takes that charisma that he had in the 90s. All those movies we know him from, Long Kiss Goodnight, the Spike Lee movies, Jurassic Park, that gives him memorable things to do. And again, sits him in a chair and gives him a very monotone role where he's just spouting comic book exposition. And also, we are all continuously told how smart he is, how smart Mr. Glass is, but we're not really shown how smart he is. The only thing we know how smart he is we know that he knows all this comic book lore, and yet then we jump to a movie like Glass where he's all of a sudden a master hacker, he's a master of technology, he just knows how to do all this stuff. But we were never shown any of that in the films. We were simply told that. You always want to show, don't tell with these actors. And in a movie like Glass, he's also plays against second fiddle to somebody like James McAvoy, who's completely upends him because he's given more to do. M. Night Shyamalan was way more fascinated with that character from Split, and again, it kind of puts Sam Jackson on the back burner. Again, mutes him for most of the movie, and then basically Mr. Glass kind of simps to the beast for the rest of the movie. It's really kind of sad what he does to his career, and it really hurt him overall.
And time. All right, Amaru, back over to you. 2 minutes, sir.
Do what you want with this, judges. The one overall work that is the worst of all time, which Samuel L. Jackson did, has to go to Spike Lee, because Bamboozled is a movie that is trying to do something that other movies have done well, where they try to take a satire, they're trying to talk about the sins of our past, and they try to build on it. And if they are going to do that, you have to be smart, you have to be intelligent, you have to do something that actually works. And blackface is the one thing that you don't touch unless you have something really intelligent to say, and he has nothing intelligent to say about it. You could have at least tried to get Damon Wayans. You have the Wayans in it. You could at least try to make the movie kind of funny, but everything that it tries to do lands horribly. And then you're just sitting there and you're waiting and you're looking at one scene after the next with blackface, and you're sitting there and you're like, why are we doing this? Why are we having this happen? So for me, the worst overall work that Samuel Jackson is in any of these movies has to be this movie. You're talking about Unbreakable, and you're talking about a movie that is utterly one of the only movie from M. Night Shyamalan that actually still has a twist that works up until maybe his last couple of years. Everything after that movie did not work because he was too full of himself. And in Unbreakable, the reason it works is because Samuel L. Jackson does not need to speak. He actually used Samuel L. Jackson in a subversive way where you're waiting for him to yell. You're waiting for him to do those things. And he shows and proves that Samuel L. Jackson can do more than that. He can be the menacing. He can be the slick. Him speaking to Bruce Willis's character eventually, and then going through all the little spaces, you feel that weight of Samuel L. Jackson in his little slick talk and his creepy movements as much as his yelling and as his bombastedness. He is beautiful in Unbreakable because he makes the movie, because you need to have a great villain. And if that villain didn't work out, that twist would not have worked out, and you would not be invested in those characters.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer will start when the first competitor speaks.
Go ahead.
So here's the deal. With Samuel L. Jackson, yes, everybody knows that he is bombastic, that he is loud, that is what he is known for. But again, you need to go into every movie with expectations. You need to, without expectations. You should not move in with expectations. And going into going into Unbreakable, saying, "Where's my loud? Where's my bombastic? Where's Samuel L. Jackson? Why is he in the background?" He's not in the back. He's purposely in the background, actually, because he's the background as a ever felt presence that once he comes out, you're like, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm seeing. So that movie works. And that movie actually is good, but it's not
Bruce Willis, which is only in one scene late into the movie, and sort of reveals his master plan of what he did with the train derailment and all that kind of stuff. It's not really menacing. He's just kind of like a lame Bond villain explaining his plans in a very monotone voice. It would be more menacing. It feels like Sam Jackson is like half asleep delivering all these lines. Like he's not really given the direction that Bruce Willis was given. Bruce Willis is clearly the focus of the film with David Dunn. It's who M. Night Shyamalan is way more interested in diving into his character. And again, where a lot of this is kind of we're told but not really shown his menace, and we're told but not really shown how smart he is on screen. We get, instead of scenes of him falling down the stairs, him with his bone breaking, it doesn't really add a lot to his character other than to explain why he's in a wheelchair, which he doesn't really need to be. But it's I guess it's fine.
We're shown the what makes him the character that he is, and being able to make him the character that he is makes him a great villain, which makes Unbreakable an actual good, great movie. When you go into the worst work that Samuel L. Jackson has ever done with the director in Bamboozled, you are failing on every aspect and every level. In a topic that is so risque and so you have to be perfect when you go into it, and it It isn't funny when that could have saved it. It isn't subversive when that is supposed to save it. The satire doesn't hit. And again, it is so damn long
again,
and
that's
so
fantastic.
damn boring.
I'll take your word that it's a bad movie. I'll take your word on that, Rue. But he was in other Spike Lee movies like Mo Better Blues, like Jungle Fever, like Do the Right Thing, where he's given better written parts and better written movies as Spike Lee evolved as a filmmaker. And again, recognized Sam Jackson's early talent and gave him media roles to do, trusted him with these veteran actors like Ruby Dee and others, and gave him, something memorable when he's kind of lost, not really lost, but he stands out in those giant ensembles when you've got people like Giancarlo Esposito and you've got people like Lawrence Fishburne. Like, you got all these people who accompany him in all these movies, but he's able to stand out and be memorable amongst all of them. That's a great credit to both the direction of him and his characters in general and his charisma.
He's able to stand out doing what he does best. And M. Night Shyamalan and Unbreakable allows Sam Jackson to stand out not doing what he does best. You're doing something that you never expected from Samuel Jackson.
Great, then why did he mute him for most of Glass? Then why did he do that?
It's not that he muted him. He made him a silent presence because you're not expecting that. And when you go in with no expectations and then you are surprised, you're like, oh shit, that worked with Samuel L. Jackson. Damn, this movie is really good. Where the movie that is absolutely horrible works on absolutely no levels. M. Night Shyamalan's movie and his work with Sam Jackson works. That's why Unbreakable is believed to be still a great second follow-up to the Sixth Sense. Bamboozle has nothing to it on a topic that should never be discussed or explored unless you have absolutely everything
again, you're talking
perfect.
About one singular role when he's done multiple roles with Spike Lee. I'm talking about how not great he is in both of my movies, in both the movies he did with M. Night Shyamalan, where he gets almost, I would argue, an Oscar level performance out of somebody like Bruce Lee in Unbreakable, and Bruce Willis, and gets near Oscar level performances out of guys like James McAvoy in his movies, but doesn't let Sam Jackson do the same thing.
End time. All right, we have 1 minute left on the round. Austin, you are back up first. The timer starts when you begin speaking.
I just think when we go into something like Unbreakable, you really you get excited about Sam Jackson being this villainous presence, but then he's not really given much to do outside of being kind of a lame knockoff sort of Bond villain. And given the fact that Unbreakable's supposed to be in its structure kind of a prelude to an actual comic book, hero movie. It's literally supposed to play, the whole movie's supposed to play like the first act of a comic book movie. You really don't get into the meatiness of his character development because you're kind of lost in his droning on about comic book lore and things and just how smart he is, but you never really demonstrate how smart he is. And again, in Glass, if you would give him a chance to really act against guys like James McAvoy and really kind of go toe-to-toe with him, which he doesn't, James McAvoy is completely running roughshod all over him in that movie. Again, Spike Lee knew how to use Sam Jackson, knew how to make him stand out amongst all these veteran actors and give him those memorable scenes, give him those memorable lines, give him those memorable dialogues in movies that otherwise a lesser actor would have been completely lost in these ensembles and wouldn't know how to stand out amongst all the other actors.
And time. All right, Amaru, back over to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
If you haven't noticed, me and Austin took this question 100% completely differently, where I'm talking about his overall one work that is absolutely the worst is a movie that is trying to take something that you have to be perfect in and you missing on every aspect. There is not one aspect of this movie in Bamboozled that actually works, and it makes it his most overall horrible film with any director, not only Spike Lee, because if you're going to touch blackface, you got to do it. Now, if you want to talk about what Austin is talking about as well, you get to care about Samuel L. Jackson's character in that movie and not let Samuel L. Jackson overthrow what the character is about. The twist in Unbreakable works is because you aren't given his cards, you aren't given his intelligence, and you're not figuring that out until the end. And that's what you want to do with this character. You just want him to be a menace. You just want him to be somebody in the background. And if you're going to cast Sam Jackson, you need to find a way to make Sam Jackson not this thing that looms over the character, but a character that then becomes Sam Jackson, and why that movie is so much better than mine. I don't know what you're going to do, judges, but let's see.
It's a blind round. Anything can happen, Rue. I don't know.
All right. That is time. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back and bring the judges in. And we'll go ahead and jump into this. Actually, I put them in the wrong way. So with that said, Noah, you are up first. The timer start, or you're not getting timed. Who gets to vote, and what was the main selling point?
5.
Rue, you're right. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And Jesus Christ, I'm gonna have to give it to Pez on this one. One, because I think my interpretation of the question, taking that aside, my words are all over the place because I'm still trying to figure my fucking thoughts out. He was able to argue why all of the works with M. Night Shyamalan were worse than the 4 or 3 that he had with Spike Lee. And even though, was it Bamboozled is this horrible film, Pez was also able to hound on the performance part of it and say, oh, he was used for exposition. He was monotone. He was like mute. He was also able to say why those movies weren't great. And then he was able to kind of say, oh, Do the Right Thing, Jungle Fever are amazing pieces of work. That's all I got. This was very hard.
Appreciate Noah trying to be nice. It's, we love Rue. It's okay. The bad luck of the draw. It wasn't even close. Pez got this one. Just it's how it goes. If Rue lied and was able to shit on, okay, yeah, well, you're a weirdo. If Rue was able to lie and shit on movies, like if you ask me, what's the worst Coen Brothers movie, and I have to argue Big Lebowski, my favorite movie of all time, I can do it. You know what I mean? At least attempt. And unfortunately, he didn't try. And I respect that you didn't try. But with the question, worst overall work, which Pez specifically brought up, if Pez didn't bring it up, then maybe it would be closer. But Pez did bring up overall work. So, yeah, Pez easily for this one. But apparently. Go Knicks.
All right.
Rue brought it up too.
Shots here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put the judges in the back and bring the competitors back in as we're going to go ahead and jump into...
I did bring up my interpretation of the question. Yes, I did, but understandable.
We're going to jump into the second question.
I didn't know you were going to talk for so long about Bamboozle, a movie I've never even heard of, so good for you.
I should have asked what you meant by that question. I thought my interpretation was the right one, so I was just
now, if anything, Rue, I kind of want to see Bamboozled, so...
Oh, man. You started talking. I was like, what is he talking about? Oh, damn.
I got you. It's all good, man.
Hey,
it's all good fun, man. We're having fun here. It's good stuff.
Theoretically, either approach could have worked. Clearly it did, because both got votes. So, but we are going to move on. Whatever justifies it for you is what justifies it. We are going to move on here and move into the second question of the blind round, which is, what is the best Chris Evans film? Amaru, you are back up first this time around, so I'll turn it over to you. It starts once you begin speaking.
The best Chris Evans film is one that is extremely underrated, that when you go into looking for it, you are supremely surprised. So underrated that it's his best movie because it's the one that delivers on absolutely everything it presents to you. It's extremely fun. The characters are extremely unique. It has one of the better villains in comic book movies that is so unlike any other villain that you can think of, and it makes the movie better when he doesn't actually die. He actually continues on at the end of the movie, and you're like, okay, what are we doing? So my pick is The Losers. The Losers is the quintessential team-up action film where everything about it hits every single aspect. In this film, you want great action. From the opening scene all the way to the end, the action is incredible. You want characters that you care about. From Jeffrey D. Morgan's Rogue, Idris Elba is amazing. Chris Evans, when you reminds you how comedic he was before he became Captain America. Columbus Short is great in his part. Oscar Cavado as the silent shooter. Everything is great.
And time. All right, Austin, over to you. Opening minute.
Yeah, oddly enough, we both picked movies kind of from the same release year of 2010. So, I went with Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and I'm glad I did because Chris Evans definitely stands out in this movie. He's one of the things you remember after you've seen this movie. When you got a movie that deals with Scott fighting these 7 evil X's, you can get lost trying to remember after you've seen the movie what the evil X's are, who they were played by. But one you certainly don't forget is one of the earlier ones of Lucas Lee, played by Chris Evans. He's this evil X who's who's this action movie star, and he's a skateboarder, and he's just a complete and utter douchebag and a cocky asshole. And you kind of wonder why Mary Elizabeth Winstead ever dated him in the first place. But sometimes you got to go with the bad boy, right? That's just one of the things, and he's truly the bad boy. And what makes it even more fun is Michael Cera's chemistry with him, especially in their scenes together, because he's a fan of Lucas Lee, and he's a fan, so you get to see him kind of being a fanboy but getting shit on by the same time. It's a really fun dynamic, again, showcasing Chris Evans' range.
And time. All right. Back over to you, Amaru. 2 minutes on the clock when ready.
I didn't even mention how Zoe Saldana shows how she is actually one of the most underrated action stars of our generation. And this is a movie that started to prove it and continued to prove it after Avatar. Everything in the type of movie you're watching in The Losers, an action comedy with a group, hits on all levels. And if you have a great villain, that elevates everything. Jason Patrick is charismatic. He is ruthless. But then he turns around, and when one of his goons pushes somebody out the window, he's like, why'd you do that, dude? You didn't need to do all that. And he's absolutely hilarious, being able at the end of the film to then to still be alive and be in a precarious situation. You want to continue with him, and wanting to continue with him allows you to want to continue with the rest of the team as well and see what other adventures they're going to get on. It hits on absolutely everything. What Scott Pilgrim versus the World doesn't do is deliver on Scott Pilgrim. He is supposed to be the most important thing. And what Pez just spent his first minute talking about is everybody else except Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is the most loathsome, unlikable, unforgivable protagonist you could ever think of. And he has an arc. That arc is there, but he is so down low on the totem pole. By the time that arc happens, you're like, I don't care about you. fuck your arc, fuck your sword, fuck all of that. Where are the evil exes I actually like, and why are they already dead? You remember Chris Evans. You remember Brandon Routh as the ultimate vegan and Todd. You remember Matthew Patel, but then they leave, and you're stuck with this asshole who is nowhere near good enough for Allison Pill, for his high school girlfriend, or Mary Elizabeth Winstead. You're sitting there the entire time like, why are we following this douchebag? Give me Kieran Culkin. That's who I want to follow. Everybody else you want to follow in this film, but you're stuck following him. We're in the losers. Every second on screen, it is enjoyable. It is fun. It delivers. You want to continue with this movie for the rest of time. I don't know why they don't have a sequel.
And time. All right, Austin, back over to you. 2 minutes.
Well, the reason why you end up liking Scott Pilgrim is because you see, you kind of don't really understand why he's so popular with all these girls, but he just is, and he doesn't really know how to handle it. So yes, he's got somebody like Knives who's completely obsessed with him and stalking him basically, and he's kind of turned off by that. He's chasing something that he can't quite have. He's chasing somebody that's eluded him, and that's very relatable to a lot of people that maybe have that crush out there that they can't quite get with, or maybe are stuck in a relationship that they're not terribly happy with. It's kind of relatable actually. Scott Pilgrim's very funny. Michael Cera's very comedic in the role. He delivers great lines, delivers great action scenes. Who knew that a guy like Michael Cera could be a great action hero, in this sort of video game type movie? And it's got great direction from Edgar Wright. He has that kinetic energy and those edits that we all love from the Cornetto movies. And it's a great comic book adaptation. Again, Chris Evans in a great comic book film, even before the Captain America films. I understand The Losers is also a comic book film. I'm not unaware of that. But Chris Evans kind of can get lost in the shuffle amongst people like Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Zoe Saldana, who are the real standouts of that. It's just kind of him almost doing what he did in Fantastic Four, just kind of being the sort of cocky guy who delivers a nice line every now and then. But the reason why I talked about Chris Evans, first of all, is that's what the question is asking. And secondly, when you have a movie that has all these 7 evil exes and has these segments, when he's able to completely steal the movie and be the one that you remember out of all of those, I couldn't tell you 3 or 4 of the other exes other than the ones you talked about with Schwartzman and Brandon Routh and Chris Evans. I couldn't tell you who played them, what their names were, whatever. But you remember Lucas Lee because he stands out. He completely embodies everything about that role, from the douchey facial hair to the leather jacket to the sarcastic attitude, improvising little lines that Edgar Wright has great writing, and Chris Evans is still adding to that with his great improvisation throughout the whole thing. He completely embodies, it's almost the complete opposite of a Captain America, again, showing his range and showing what he can do as an actor in a different type of comedy where he's not just being kind of a cocky hero, he's being literally a complete and utter asshole.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 4-minute open discussion. Timer starts when the first competitor begins speaking.
That's Julian McMahon in Fantastic Four, not Jason Patrick, so he's not doing the same thing. Secondly, you remember, thank you for saying that you don't remember some of the X's except the first 3 in Todd, in Matthew Patel, and in Jason Lee, because at least you start off that movie with great villains who can actually overshadow this piece of shit. But the other aspect of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World that sucks is that it's too long. It is way too long, because by the time you get to the end, when you get to the Katanayaga twins and you get to Gideon Graves, you don't care about them either. So now you're stuck with this asshole who you said you liked. You like that he's still in the band with an ex who hates him and stringing along. You like that he's stringing along a high school senior. And later in the movie, when the girl he's cheating on with shows up, he says, "Ooh, I gotta pee." You mentioned action and comedy. Everybody else around the action and comedy is what makes him even slightly good, not him.
Well, yeah, it's got a great supporting cast around him that makes the movie that much more entertaining when you have people like Aubrey Plaza, and you have people like, again, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. You have people like Anna Kendrick, who are all very likable, and again, are kind of following this journey of Scott Pilgrim and bringing up a lot of the points that you bring up about, his conflicts, and bring up the questions that the audience would bring up, which makes it very self-aware to what the character is. And sure, like you eventually grow to like him in the end. You may not like him at the beginning, but you come around to him, and it settles on a very nice ending where he's able to settle his differences with Knives, and he's able to get with with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and he's able to settle everything amongst all these great action scenes. Again, great direction and great writing from Edgar Wright.
Again, you're proving that this movie is too long and is focusing on the wrong people, because the people you mentioned, and Aubrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick, are not in this movie very long. It's the exes you are supposed to follow. And by the time you get to the last ones where that arc is supposed to hit, those villains don't really matter because you don't care about them and you're stuck with this piece of shit asshole. Whereas in The Losers, the entirety of the film, you are given the people that you want to follow along. It is Roke, Idris Elba, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan that are the leaders with Zoe Saldana. So they are given the majority of the time. But the characters around them make them feel like a team, including Chris Evans, who, again, when you go back and look at it, Chris Evans was a comedic actor. He was a comedic actor before anything, and you remember, oh my God, how funny that dude was. You get these strong, silent type and asking about it, and you got Chris Columbus, who is able to go back and forth with every single person, so it feels like a team, and you love every part of it.
Your movie, again, he's still doing the same comedic shtick that he does in the other movies in Fantastic Four, being amongst this ensemble and playing this kind of cocky guy that just delivers these sort of one-liners, whereas mine is a completely different type of comedy where he's being a complete asshole, a complete full of sarcasm, and again, really playing a role of a guy you hate way more than Scott Pilgrim. I mean, like, he makes Scott Pilgrim look like a damn saint in this movie, the way he treats him. And
Which
Lucas
character?
Lee. Lucas Lee.
Okay.
Lucas Lee, Chris Evans' character. You know, the actor that he plays, the douchebag asshole actor that's a skateboarder that uses a skateboard to beat the shit out of Scott Pilgrim. And, and hell, they even start the action scene. You wonder if he's going to get out of this alive. Chris Evans beats the shit out of him in that movie. And again, shows that physicality that he would show in his later movies, in his fight scenes as Captain America. So it's a little, preview of things to come.
You love to hate Lucas Lee because Lucas Lee is a stereotype. So that's what you're supposed to do. Scott Pilgrim is presented as a person and as the worst person, and a person you are forced to follow this entire movie. On top of that, we're not arguing best Chris Evans performance in a movie. We're arguing best Chris Evans film. And that is easily The Losers, because he does what he's supposed to do. And you actually do more than one-liners. The ending scene with him arguing against the ref because his niece got fouled on the soccer field is more than a one-liner. It's a beautiful bit that gives him heart past the funny man fatigue. And every single person there of the team works. The villain is absolutely amazing, and the action hits nonstop.
And time. All right, we're going to go into the 1-minute closings for each competitor. Amaru, you're back up first. Time starts once you begin speaking.
The Losers is the best Chris Evans films because when you go into the movie, you are absolutely surprised at the level that it hits on everything you want from this kind of film. You want great action from beginning to end. From the Bolivia fight in the middle, when they actually shoot a helicopter full of kids, and you're like, oh shit, there's actually weight to this. To the end where Idris Elba dies by getting catapulted through a plane and then blown up later, and you're like, oh shit, that was actually really fucking cool. But the gist of it is the fact that the team and the villain are more than just the three-dimensional one-note characters. They actually have some weight to them, something different to them, and you love every second of the movie because you love every second with them. When it comes to Scott Pilgrim versus the World, you start out having to follow this piece of shit guy against exes you actually like better than them, and then they die, and then the movie keeps going along following him. When Kieran Culkin is the one that gives him the funny line, the action between everybody else will allow Scott Pilgrim to be better, and then you end up saying, let's get this over with because I don't like these villains and I'm forced to stick with a piece of shit Scott Pilgrim.
All right, and then Austin, back over to you. Final minute of the round, when ready.
Look, The Losers is a serviceable action film, but it's not a very well-directed action film. It doesn't really balance the characters terribly well. And even if you look at just the critical mass of it, 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 54% for the audience, which is even more. This movie's kind of been forgotten over the years. It's been completely kind of dumped in the trash bin. It's something you can easily find in a dollar bin, as opposed to Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which has had not only beloved by comic book fans, it's beloved by video game fans. They're doing a new anime based on the original Scott Pilgrim, bringing back all the characters, which means this movie has an enduring legacy 13 years later, to where they're going to do even a different style, and it still holds up. It sold tons of books, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, 84% audience grade. The audience is like it even more than the critics, and it's a movie that has stood the test of time, still stands out as one of Edgar Wright's best movies. Again, the score, the music, the absolutely hilarious writing, the stunning visuals, which were unique for the time and unique for Edgar Wright, who was more of a grounded director who just did a lot of interesting dialogue. It shows that he could do action, he could step up his game and do something completely unique and extraordinary, unlike The Losers.
And time. All right, guys. Another good round there. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys both in the back and bring the judges to the forefront here for the decision. With that said, Henry, you are up first. So I'm going to go to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point of it?
So this debate is kind of parallels an earlier argument, but the antithesis of my decision. Both of these people pitch their movie in a good way. Where if after hearing the description, ironically, I've never seen The Losers, so Rue makes me want to go watch it now for the first time, prioritizing my watch list. And Scott Pilgrim is one of my favorite movies, so I'm always down to rewatch that. Both of them pitched good reasons of why theirs is good, but unfortunately, until the end, which it did help a little bit, but until the end, Pez didn't really knock Losers. At the end, he was able to knock out Bad Direction and kind of just no one really cares and talks about it. But with Rue's ability to pitch the quality of that film and knock Scott Pilgrim a lot, I'm going to go with Rue on that one.
All right, so the first vote goes to Rue. Jake, down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Yep, I'm going to echo Henry's sentiments exactly. Everyone knows that I'm a bit of a Rotten Tomatoes slut, and while Pez came in really hard with that last minute, overall, Rue had the better argument as to why The Losers is the better film.
Absolutely. And the best reaction of the night was Noah reacting to the fact that he didn't have to actually make a judgment on this one. With that said, though, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back as we're going to move on to the speed round. Go ahead and bring the competitors back in, and we will go ahead and get into this. The way the speed round works is it was going to be a best 2 of 3. Of course, it was first to 4 wins. However, because we are in sudden death, you're going to have to win 2 of these questions in order to win the match. So it is now first to 5 points. The first 2 questions were given to the competitors. They do have their answers. They do have their prep. If we have to go to the third and final question of this match, you guys will just answer the question and then debate with no prep. However, there's not going to be a blind trick to the question like previously. You'll get to pick your preferred answer to debate with. But it will be an instantaneous answer and then debate. In terms of the structure, you guys are going to get each a minute to open, followed by 90 seconds to expand, and then 30 seconds to close. There is going to be no open discussion. And then backstage, when the judges are brought on screen, they are simply going to give their deliberation of who the point goes to. There won't be any expansion, just so we can keep the pace of the match going. Okay? So do we have any questions, or are we good to go?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. So for this first speed round question, we are pulling a replay question that actually only comes from a couple of matches ago because I thought it'd be good for a good question. So the question is, what is the worst film of Phase 4, that being MCU Phase 4? I didn't expand upon that in the banner, but MCU Phase 4. So Jesus, wow, so far. Phase is over. Okay, so if you can't tell, I wrote this question a minute ago. And then copied and pasted it into the banners because I was rushing before the match started. So what is the worst film?
It's a replay question, right? So that's why it still has so far on there because it was done earlier, right?
No, I wish I could say that, but the other one was done after the phase was over too. With that said, the match that it was previously used in was Sean Sandberg versus Don Tucker. It was a blind round. That's why they chose Wakanda Forever and No Way Home. That's not their taste. That's just what they picked blindly. So it meant that all the bad ones were left for you guys to choose from. So you picked 2 of them. Continuing the trend from before, Austin, you're going to go first. Amaru, you're going to go second. I promise once we start this match, I'll stop the jokes. And again, continued best of luck to both of you guys. This is the moment we've been waiting for. That said, Austin, when ready.
So you had a movie in Phase 3 called Thor Ragnarok, and what Taika Waititi did when it came to do the follow-up of Thor Love and Thunder is he completely shit on everything he did before. He turned up everything to 11, much to the detriment of both fans and critics. Thor Love and Thunder at the time was one of the lowest rated MCU movies. People who loved Thor Ragnarok didn't even like Thor Love and Thunder. Flat out admitted that he took he did way too much with the over-the-top forced labored jokes. Everything's a joke in this movie. It feels like a Freeburg Seltzer parody of a Thor film, other than instead of a movie that has any kind of stakes or character development or anything like that. Thor is dumber than ever in this movie. He's a complete and utter clown show, even more so than he was in Ragnarok. You have a decent villain in Gore, except for the fact that we don't see any of the things that makes him a god butcher. You have a decent opening scene with Christian Bale. He's doing the best with what he has so far, but he's given literally nothing to to do on screen. Everything about him is told instead of shown, especially the God butching aspect, which we don't see him do any of that or any of his motivations as to what's happening with his relationship with him and the sword he's using to supposedly butcher all these gods.
And time. I do apologize for both the competitors and anyone at home with the timer. For some reason, this file consistently gives me issues, especially when everyone's at home and on the Wi-Fi. I do promise you it is keeping to the time of the minutes that it's counting. It just sometimes freezes.
I figured I was out of time.
So
it felt like 5 seconds. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do apologize about that on the visual end of things. With that said, though, Amaru, back over to you. 1 minute.
Failing at being mediocre is much worse than doing a lot of aspects right, but not hitting people's comedic sensibilities. Black Widow is utterly the worst film of Phase 4 because everything about it is mediocre or worse. You talk about Gore the God Butcher, they completely neutered Taskmaster. They wanted to say, hey, we made her a woman, and then put her behind a mask, and then completely shitted on the fact that she can mimic things. Dreykov has been noted since Avengers, and he absolutely does absolutely nothing. The only good thing about this movie is Florence Pugh, and she's better in Hawkeye than she is in this because we're focused on Black Widow not really getting much character development. The action is okay. The story doesn't really go anywhere. You forget everything aspect of it. What makes it even worse, the opening scene is really, really good. And you're like, yes, where the fuck happened everywhere else? Oh, okay. Well, let me try to hold on to Florence Pugh. Let me try to hold on to maybe David Harbour when he's not going over the top. Dreykov sucks. Taskmaster is neutered. Shit, I don't remember anything about this movie. That's pretty horrible.
And time. All right, Austin, back over to you. You have 90 seconds.
Look, Black Widow is basically a mid-tier MCU movie, which is perfectly fine, but it makes him far from the worst of Phase 4 when you have an atrocity like Thor Love and Thunder, the fall from Thor Ragnarok, which is a lot of MCU fans' favorite MCU movie overall, or at least in a lot of people's top 3 or top 5. To then have even those fans reject this movie is even worse. So 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, again, one of the worst rated MCU movies. 77% audience. Most of these MCU movies score in the 80s or 90s, much like Black Widow, 79% from the critics, 91% with the audience. People like this movie. People like seeing the fact that we got to see Black Widow on screen, have a female-led spy movie. Like you said, has pretty good action sequences. Taskmaster, Taskmaster being a mediocre villain is not really that big a deal because only the hardcore comic fans really care or have any expectations. You have a lot of expectations for somebody like Christian Bale when you hear that he's cast as somebody like Gore the God Butcher. The fact that they barely use him at all on screen, he's doing the best with the crappy material that he's working with. But again, we don't see him doing any of the God butchering or really raising the stakes. You have a perfect opportunity with the God Planet sequence with Russell Crowe for him to come in there and start butchering gods, and yet they do nothing with that. That would be a great opportunity for him to come in there and start slicing up gods, really amp up the stakes. But there are no stakes. We'd rather do jokes than stakes. Jane's cancer is treated like a complete joke. We don't know. We don't get to see any of her really getting diagnosed, to see none of her backstory, her dealing with it. It's just dealt with Bluetooth jokes and bad chemistry with Tessa Thompson. We have to make more room for Melissa McCarthy cameos, Vomit, and just in general ratings. Den of Geek ranks this 15 out of 17 properties in Phase 4. Collider 17 out of 18, consistently near the bottom. It gets worse on repeat viewings. Black Widow, on the other hand, is rated a little higher.
All right, Amaru, back over to you. You have 90 seconds.
I hate using lists and Rotten Tomatoes because we argue about what's overrated and underrated all the time. So skipping past that, Black Widow is not what it's supposed to be when you are trying to make up a movie we should have gotten years ago with a female-led character and a female villain, and you absolutely neuter every single part of that and make it completely unmemorable. Her little sister is more memorable than anything that the title character does when it comes to Thor: Love and Thunder. This is talking about objective comedy, but when you look at it, the goats hit every time. The villain does hit with what he's given. And you know what's worse than one villain who does a great job at what's on the screen, but maybe doesn't do what his name says? two villains that were, one, a female lead neutered, and two, another one who was brought up for years and years and years as being this big thing over Black Widow and then falling to nothingness. On top of that, Korg is given more to do. The reason Thor is the way he is because Phase 4 is all about grieving. He is utterly grieving the failure that he had previously, so he reverts back to the worst version of himself. We do get Jane going through her cancer because we find out what gives her power is what is killing her. That bathroom scene in front of the mirror is absolutely great. The aspects and tones and themes of Thor Love and Thunder hit. You just may not like the comedy because it does get overblown sometimes, but other people love it. You're talking about opinion while everything structurally is good. Everything about Black Widow is so mediocre when it was supposed to be so damn great that it falls absolutely flat and completely kills everything it was supposed to do. It's supposed to hit for Black Widow as it doesn't. It's supposed to hit for villains and it doesn't.
All right. Austin, back over to you. 30 seconds for the end of the round.
The MCU's had plenty of mediocre villains, but nobody's going to the Black Widow movie for a mediocre villain. You're going to see Black Widow get her own movie, which is absolutely what she gets in this one, and she's the complete focus. She has amazing chemistry with Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh's performance and chemistry is so great that she basically bought herself a spinoff show right out of that. David Harbour as the Red Guardian, like, absolutely steals every scene he's in. Those family dynamics are fantastic. You really explore those characters. The dinner scene is great. It feels like a Phase 1 movie, and the character traits that they do bring up, all the characters in Thor are absolute joke. The humor fails to be humor when all the characters are comic relief. Black Widow does the humor, but very sparingly, and has great action.
All right. And then finally, Amaru, final 30 seconds.
Black Widow should be retitled Yelena, and that is a problem. All the aspects behind Thor Love and Thunder actually work really well, even if they don't hit for everybody comedically. And I'd rather have a movie that swings with humor and may not work for some, but work for others, but has a great structure and has a lot of great themes, and you feel for the characters, than a movie that was supposed to be given years ago, that's supposed to big up somebody who wasn't given her due, that was supposed to big up a villain that was mentioned before, that was supposed to be great for female characters, and the female character you're supposed to give it to is put in the background. The female villain is trash, and Yelena is the one that got a spinoff. Black Widow was utterly disappointing.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and bring the judges on screen for the deliberation. As a reminder, judges, I am looking simply for your point, and that is it. With that said, Jake.
Pez.
Noah.
Rue.
Henry.
I'm shocked. Pez.
Okay. Judges, thank you. We're going to go ahead and jump into the second speed round question here, which is, I have to scroll back down. The question is, what is the worst horror franchise of the 1990s? And I'm going to provide a preface for this question for both the people at home and the judges. Both of these competitors picked franchises in which, during my research, it was come up that there are multiple entries in the 90s that are direct-to-DVD. The competitors themselves made a decision to be okay with that. So every entry that was released in the 90s, whether they went to theaters or DVD, is eligible for simply this question for the sake of being able to argue the franchise. With that said, Amaru, you're up first. Timer starts when you begin speaking.
The original Children of the Corn is a staple in horror because what it does in terms of its scares, what it does in terms of its point of view, and what it does for a new aspect of horror villains. But what every aspect of the movies that come out in the 90s is exactly what you would expect in multiple straight-to-DVD movies that build nothing for the characters, that build nothing for the lore. The scares don't work at all. It's really one-dimensional trash characters that make no sense. Everything is muddled in all of these films, and you feel from the first second you watch every single one of these films, you're like, ah, shit. they couldn't do this again. They couldn't remake the magic that they had before. Children of the Corn deserve so much better than the pieces of crap that they came out with one after the other, trying to cash in on the gimmick of children being the horror and never being able to get back to it. And so bad that when they finally got a remake that had notoriety, they even said, yo, they should have been released on DVD too as well.
And time. All right. You're good. I know there's a timer discrepancy a little bit. Austin, back over to you. 1 minute on the clock.
I went with the franchise that doesn't even have a good base to jump off of in the 90s, and that's Leprechaun, which is really only noted because it gives Warwick Davis something to do outside of Harry Potter and Star Wars. It starts out with a premise that really should have been a one-off movie, kind of like the Rumpelstiltskin movie almost in the 90s. It should have just been a one-off curiosity. Every movie in the series in the 90s, which is parts 1 through 4, is exactly the same, just with a different setting. So literally, I'll give you the plot of every single movie. Part 1, I want me gold, where's my gold? On a farm. Number 2, I want me gold. Where's my gold? In a city. Number 3, I want me gold. Where's my gold? In Vegas. Number 4, I want me gold. Where's my gold? In space. And space, yes, I mentioned it, space. This movie, within 4 movies, jumped the shark just like all the other movies that went to space and completely killed their franchises deader than a hammer. Even though they continued somewhat in theory, it's once you go to space, there's really nowhere to go. You can't revert back to it. Critters did it. Hellraiser did it. Hell, even Friday the 13th did it. Fast and the Furious did it. And once you do that, you're completely done. You're completely out of ideas. It's a movie that didn't even have a good movie to start with and has even worse sequels going forward.
And time. All right. Amaru, back over to you. You have 90 seconds.
Leprechaun is amazing because it's a horror comedy that knows exactly what it's going to be, and it delivers that. It knows, look, we have a real big gimmick here, and our gimmick is you are about to laugh your ass off every which way that this leprechaun can kill people. Why change that? Just make it bigger and bigger and bigger. You said it yourself. They do it Fast and Furious, and people love going to see that because when you come to a movie and it comes to a franchise where you're like, look, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting hilarious ass shit with Warwick Davis being his most charming self and being able to kill people, and you love it. Let's go to different places and build on that. And let's not try to make this a big, more quintessential thought thing. Let's deliver on what people want to see from these movies. It's the leprechaun killing people in the most hilarious ways. Children of the Corn continued to try to bring plots back that were just muddled, that continued to just bring things in that had nothing to do with the original that actually worked out. Leprechaun does what it needs to do and continues to deliver over and over and over again. The Children of the Corn movies were so bad that even some releases were missing CGI scenes in the middle of them in different markets. They didn't care about these films. They just said, let's put Children of the Corn on a movie and slap it to DVD, and we're done. There's nothing about it that even relates to back to the original film. There's nothing that builds on it. It doesn't do either one. It doesn't stick with what it does or build on it. Leprechaun continuously delivers on what it said it was going to do and makes it bigger.
And time. All right, Austin, over to you.
Leprechaun didn't even know what it wanted to do from the start. It was a notoriously original PG-13 movie that they inserted awkward rated R violence later in the movie in reshoots to try to go for a harder edge because the other original one wasn't working. Leprechaun throughout the series doesn't expand on any of the mythology of the actual Leprechaun, doesn't dive into any of his backstory when they have plenty of opportunity to do so. And there's no continuity between any of the films. He just pops up in random locations, spits a couple of new rhymes. It's the only reason why you watch is for Warwick Davis at all, but that gets tired after a while. Children on the Corn, on the other hand, in the 90s, actually has a full continuity between all the movies. Everything completely expands the mythos of the whole thing. It dives into different locations, but everything connects. So you have people in the second movie investigating the happenings of the first movie. The one third, Urban Harvest, is actually kind of an underrated gem. Takes 2 of the kids from the original, puts them in Chicago, puts them in a different setting, lets them run wild and kill people. It's a lot of fun. And the other ones, again, keep expanding on the mythology. They does something the Leprechaun doesn't even do as far as bringing in recognizable actors, character actors, starting new careers, bringing in recognizable horror actors. Number 2 has Terrence Knox and Ed Grady, 2 notable TV character actors. Number 3 is the debut of Charlize Theron. Number 4 has Naomi Watts and Karen Black. Karen Black's a very recognizable horror actress. Number 5 has a lot of recognizable people: Alexis Arquette, Eva Mendes, Fred the Hammer Williams, David Carradine, and Kane Hodder. So they actually try to make it interesting, so there's always somebody on screen you want to look at. Number 6 brings back the John Franklin, the guy who played the original Isaac, again bringing the series full circle in the 90s, with including one in the 90s in 1990, directed by Carrie Scaglin, who directed episodes of The Handmaid's Tale, The Walking Dead, Vikings. She's a very notable director, and you can see that flair in this movie.
And time. Okay, Amaru, back over to you. 30 seconds left on the round.
You mentioned all these characters. You mentioned all these actors that are notable. You mentioned all these things that make it seem like these movies actually deliver on something. But when you actually watch them, you're looking at it and you're like, why are we doing this? What is the point of this muddled continuity that doesn't make sense going back to the first one? Why there's certain movies, why am I missing things from the movie that I don't even understand? You're looking at Children of the Corn and you're like, okay, I'm tired of this. But when you get into Leprechaun and you know, all right, I'm getting funny comedy, Warwick Davis killing people, doing it again in a bigger scene, you know exactly what you're getting, and you're loving everything about it because it's exactly what you delivered. While Children of the Corn is trying to be bigger than it is.
All right, and then Pez, over to you. Final 30.
Again, once Leprechaun, the series does literally nothing different. It's the same thing. Warwick Davis just killing people in random plain ways in different settings. Children of the Corn at least tries to expand on the mythology. It tries to explain some of the paranormal influences, possible curses, dealing with the actual reasons for why the children are going crazy, especially in that first film, really diving into the backstory of that. It tries to do something different each movie, which is something that Leprechaun does not do, with Warwick Davis literally doing the exact same thing with worse and worse makeup every single time. This one at least has special effects, people who became directors with these movies, giving it their first shot, actually having decent kills, decent gore, and again, expanding on the things that come predecessor that everyone connects to the other movie.
And time. All right, that will be time, guys. I'm going to go ahead and bring the judges in. Once again, we are going to go straight to the judgments here. So with that said, Noah, who gets your vote?
Pez.
Henry?
Shocking. Rue. I'm so confused.
Q Jake.
Rue.
All right. So with that, it is 4-4. We are going to go on to the final question. Judges, thank you guys so much. We're going to go ahead and get into this. With that said, as with always, with this final question, you guys are going to answer here. There is no trick. However, the window for the question is very, very specific because there was a large enough number of films. So I decided to go specific with this. So you may take
Can you
a
repeat
second
that
to
because you cut out? Yeah, can you repeat that because you cut out?
Yeah, no, that's fair. So what I was just saying is the rules. You guys are going to get the question. There is no messery with it. You're going to get the question straight, but you guys can take a second to Google because the window of question is very specific, and you guys can take a second to Google just to make sure you see all your options. Okay. All right. Your final question is: what is the best film featuring Chris Pratt released between 2015 and 2019? So you have a 5-year window: 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Jurassic World.
And as a reminder, whoever answers first will go first. So when you have your answer, please submit.
Avengers: Infinity War.
Okay. Which means Amaru will be going first on this question. Avengers: Infinity War.
He said Jurassic World.
I said Jurassic World first, so I guess I go first, right?
Yeah, I don't know if
I
Aaron heard
apologize.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on back. Come on back. Aaron, can you hear us?
All right. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. He said Jurassic
Honestly,
World first.
I just missed Pez because I apparently.
Cool.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no, it's
good.
all
I
good.
heard you. I heard you.
Yeah. Okay.
I can hear you perfectly fine. It's just for some reason every time I bring this timer in, it does not want to work. So I'll have to figure that one out for the future. But with that said, we're gonna go on to the final question. With Jurassic World and Avengers: Infinity War, the question is, what is the best film featuring Chris Pratt released between 2015 and 2019? I'm gonna bring the timer in. Wish you guys one more best of luck. Austin, time starts once you begin.
So I went with Jurassic World because it absolutely proves that within this franchise, you can do a sequel without the legacy characters. You can have a completely new set of characters with Chris Pratt and his Owen Grady, with Bryce Dallas Howard and Claire, and with Ty Simpkins and Gray. And it actually jumps on the premise that we've been promised for several movies in a fourth film, actually opening up the park, opening up the world, getting to see the inner workings of an amusement park, which is a lot of fun. And you also get to see the corporatization of the amusement parks, as it does a really smart thing where they talk about the everything being sponsored by something, the Indominus Rex sponsored by Verizon or whatever it is. And yeah, it actually delivers on the premise that we've been promised a long time ago, as opposed to something like Jurassic Park, which you don't really get a functional park. So you get to see the same things you would see in an amusement park. You get to see the Margaritavilles, the people with the fast passes. You get to see how we have to keep upping the ante over and over again. Bryce Dallas Howard, we got to make this Indominus Rex. We got to make him big, bad, or more teeth. And we have to, do that. And Owen Grady, you have a great, relatable character who's the voice of the audience. This is a really stupid idea. This is a really bad idea. And of course, it all goes wrong. But you have a strong character who carries that and is able to hold his own and fight alongside the Raptors.
And time. All right, Amaru, over to you. Opening minute.
Avengers: Infinity War is an utter classic of a movie that delivers on something you didn't think that could happen. It's the culmination of all. It's the first part of a culmination of all these movies that's better than the actual culmination, because what they do is, again, subvert your expectations in a franchise where you think the expectations are there by making the movie about a very 3D villainous guy that you connect with, that you understand. Thanos is the star of this movie, and being able to do that and still grow everybody else makes you just wide-eyed with wonder. The action is absolutely amazing. Every other character as well is so damn great. The opening scene of Iron Man having to go with Nebula and getting saved and then fighting afterwards builds their character. Thor being absolutely pissed and pulling from Captain Marvel saying, I like her, builds your character. The scene with him and Rocket going through all his grief is absolutely amazing. So it all delivers when he comes down in Wakanda, and it's absolutely amazing. That kind of arc is given to every single character, but it's run through Thanos, and that's something we've never seen. And in the end, he wins, and you're sitting there like, oh my fucking God, how are they going to defend? How are they going to up it?
All right, Austin, back over to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Most of his points he argues were for Endgame, not for Infinity War. I just want to point out that Jurassic Park has a really unique angle that it takes with the Owen character, where he's training raptors, which is again something we've never seen. It's a different way to use the raptors. That's much better than them talking in a dream sequence of Jurassic Park 3. You have them doing this really unique thing. So we get to see the raptors as kind of heroes, as allies instead of actual villains. You put the villain or kind of the threat back onto a larger dinosaur instead of the ground level stuff. And again, the chemistry between Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt is absolutely electric. It's very, very good. They have this kind of contentious relationship, but she also kind of likes the bad boy. She likes the fact that he's sort of speaking his mind and is not catering and kissing her ass all over the place. You bring back one legacy character who B.D. Wong, but a character who we expand on from the first movie that a lot of people may not even remember, but as kind of the mastermind of this whole park. And it very much works. Again, seeing the machinations of this park, introducing new characters and proving that you can do this premise, without all the original stuff in it, as opposed to Infinity War, which is a very muddled movie. It's a very long movie, but it's one that gets where a lot of the characters get lost. They don't get a chance to really shine. Each one gets about 2 scenes at best. Yes, you get a decent Thor, but most of the focus is put on Thanos, and you kind of lose the Avengers in the shuffle. And again, when we do see the Avengers, you get these just quick spats of action here and there. Chris Pratt in particular, which is what the question is about, makes a really stupid decision that makes people not like his character. Instead of defeating Thanos, really hindering the process and getting way too emotional, and it makes you not like him at all. And it's a lot. It's just way too much for the runtime
and time. All right, Amaru, back over to you. You have 90 seconds on the clock when ready.
You're right. I screwed up one time with Endgame and its opening, but still actually works because the opening of Infinity War is just as strong because you get the death of Loki, you get the death of Heimdall, you get Thor being utterly demoralized and showing that Thanos is the key to this movie. You still have the conversation between Thor and Rocket that builds his character. That kind of relationship that you get with them in all their different journeys is why the movie still works, because you get it with Spidey and Iron Man all the way to the end. You said, I don't want to go, Mr. Spark. You feel all of that. And Chris Pratt, again, you're talking about best Chris Pratt performance. That doesn't matter. It's about the movie. But even then, that decision he makes him human, makes him more than just a cocky guy, and makes him care about the fact that Gamora dies. It gives that weight. Your movie is nothing more than serviceable. That chemistry between the two of them is absolutely horrible. Owen Grady is nothing more than every single cooler than thou character you've ever seen. Ty Simpkins is so damn annoying, and his older brother does nothing to help him. Bryce Dallas Howard, the essential thing we talk about with her is she's running in heels, and that's her entire thing that we always talk about, because she's nothing but paper thin development. You talked about everything in Jurassic World in your opening. You talked about all the details. You talked about fucking Margaritaville. You didn't talk about the plot. Everything around it seems pretty good because they're trying to go back to the same stuff Jurassic Park did, because they know Jurassic Park is great. So everybody's like, oh, it's pretty cool because we're better than 2 and 3. Nothing about your character's work. Nothing about your plot is more than a rerun of Jurassic Park, but not as good. Nothing about anything that actually matters works for Jurassic World more than just cool. It's better than what sucks.
All right, and we have 30 seconds left for each competitor. Pez, you are up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Jurassic World brings a fresh dynamic to the formula because it actually adds to the fact that there are thousands of people in this park, and there's a much bigger threat to the thing. And it's interesting seeing the corporate people trying to keep everything hushed down, trying to keep everything under wraps, trying to contain the threat, not have everybody panic, while Owen is telling everybody to evacuate, and then they refuse to listen. It's like stuff in Jaws where people don't want to listen. Infinity War, again, is a muddled movie that just exists to go from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, from battle to battle to battle to battle. It gets mind-numbing after 3 hours. It puts way more focus on the villain than with the Avengers. When it's called an Avengers movie, it should be way more focused on the actual Avengers and giving them their time on the screen and giving them something to do.
And time. All right, and then over to Amaru, 30 seconds.
There's nothing new in Jurassic World because there were thousands of people in San Diego. There was a corporation trying to make a park in 2. Now, all the Jurassic World does is take what really worked in the original masterpiece and some of what worked in the rest, and not doing any better than just fine, because and considered more than fine because 2 and 3 were absolute trash. So we're like, cool, we'll take it. Avengers Infinity War surpassed the up high expectations because it's a heist film led by its villain, that it's 3-dimensional, that still gives character depth and character arc and great action to its characters because of its relationships, and it delivers on almost the impossible, and also is better than what is the culmination. Damn it.
All right, guys,
I'm exhausted.
Gonna go ahead and bring in the judges here. Henry, I'm going to start with you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point? Or just who got your vote?
This speed round makes it very aggravating that I actually can't show you my notes that I'll have in the rest of the match that will keep us friends. With that said, on par with the rest of the speed round, I am so confused. Pez.
Okay. Noah.
Rue.
And Jake.
God, I hate this.
Amaru.
And your winner and still defending champion of Movie Battleground, Amaru Ruber Moses, taking the victory. I don't even think we're gonna give him a second to breathe. We'll go ahead and jump into this. Judges, of course, you guys are welcome to hang around and chat. This is normally behind the scenes shit, but if any of you guys got to take all time, I do understand it. But we'll go ahead because it's gonna get late, so I want to make sure we wrap the video part of it up. Amaru, again, and between the two of you guys, I don't think on either end there's anything to sort of feel. How do you feel following that?
All right, here's the deal. I consider it a great win because the last speed round question, because to me, that could have gone either way. He really got me when we recognized that I was talking about Endgame for a second. And I would not have been mad if either of us would have took it. I'll tell you this. I thought I knocked his ass out. Or win 3-1, because the one I took for spaghetti westerns, I was like, whatever way that goes, I'm cool. The two I lost, I thought I murdered him. I thought I hit him in every single aspect. I've heard the judges' arguments, but I thought I absolutely took every aspect of that. My regret is not asking what the blind round was, and if it was, if I was, I could have had an argument that would have been a lot better and known, and because I know how to do blind rounds. However, Pez beat me on Children of the Corn. He definitely beat me on Children of the Corn versus Leprechaun. I was like, well, Pez won this. He got it because that was him knowing his movies and me trying to bullshit my way through it. So when I took it, you saw my reaction, and I was like, you know what? It comes down to one thing. The stuff I thought I won, I didn't get. The stuff I thought he won, he didn't get. It is now a wash. It comes down to one question. Let's see who gets it. And I am just happy that it's me. So that's all, you know me. I'm going to talk about what I don't agree with, and that's what I don't agree with on both ways. So I'm glad it came down to the last one. I'm glad it came down to the last one. And damn it, if he would have won it, I would have gave it to him because we were able to just go, hey, one round, let's debate, let's do it. And he did a really good job of upping Jurassic World, which is nowhere near as good as Infinity War, but me still thinking, shit, they might give it to him and I would understand.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This was arguably, because I mean, we said it about your match versus Henry that it was the tightest. And then on a statistical level, because Jay did push you to that final question, that one then becomes the tightest because it was the first one to go to the final question. There's an argument that this one might even have been closer than that one. And obviously that one felt a little different because you guys know each other more personally. This one, I felt like there was no reservation. There was no element. Because I feel like naturally, even if you know someone, there's a little bit of you that's holding back. In the most respectful way possible, I feel like both of you completely let loose tonight and put on one of the best shows we've seen. So in that aspect, I would congratulate you both. So as to the next one, because obviously you get some time off, you're going to get to breathe a little bit as champion. But this is an interesting period because obviously we told you this for the first time in a long time, there isn't a clear person that's ready to take over the contendership. There's kind of a couple different options on the table. First off, we have John Marr, who is currently at 4-1. His next matchup will be versus myself, and as was promised in his last match, if he can beat me, then he will get a chance to go for the number one contenders match. We also have another match coming up, Mahdi Raymond and one of our judges tonight, Noah McCausland. They're going to be playing. The winner of that match will be in line for a number one contenders match. And we also have Joe Fairley, who won a number one contenders match from his tournament performance last year. Now, for personal reasons, he wasn't able to compete early in the season, which is why Jay was advanced to play you as the winner of the tournament. But when he returns, will still get to keep that number one contenders match. So right now, there's about 4 people sort of circling this spot to play you, and we'll have to wait and see how things play out. Of those options, what sort of interests you the most?
Before I do that, Austin, I would love to run this back with me not like screwing up that betting round, that blind round question. Because as much as I might not have agreed with the judges decisions are final, so I have to accept it. I definitely want to run this back, sir. That was great. Out of those, I like last time, I'd want somebody new, somebody I haven't played before. So whether that's Smart, actually, that's just Smart, I guess. Because I played I played everybody else. I played Noah, I played Jay, and I played Joe. And just like this one, it was every single damn question. But yeah, I guess Mar. Just because it's somebody new, and I like facing new people and having new challenges. So.
Absolutely. I'm going to take that as you want me to lose, and I'm going to be personally hurt, but I won't take it out on you.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
I will, obviously, we will see you in the near future as you continue your run at 2 defenses now. Congratulations to you, sir. We will see you next time as I will bring in your opponent. And I mean, I've always maintained, I always find it the most difficult to talk to the person who's lost a match, because obviously that's a tough feeling, especially in a game where it's all about opinions, right? You are bringing your opinions to the table to debate another person's opinion, and then being judged by 3 other people who have opinions that are trying to put their opinions out of their own head and listen to your opinions. And then I guess theoretically deciding who's correct. So there's a lot of angles to this. That said, genuinely, I can't praise your performance enough tonight, especially because a lot of my prologue to this match was talking about how your specialty is getting things done quick and out the gate and not really going the distance. In that sense, you went the distance. This is one of the most back and forth title matches that we've had. We had multiple lead changes throughout it. Usually there's somebody in the driver's seat and then maybe a comeback, but most of these, it's not been that back and forth as it was tonight. You put up an excellent performance despite the way that it went at the end. So keeping in mind the obvious, how are you feeling after all that?
No, I mean, well, just first off, I agree with Rue with one thing. I thought I kicked his fucking ass on that Children of the Corn Leprechaun question, so I don't understand me not getting the point and close out the match with that. Because boy, did I prep my ass off for that question and bullshitted my ass off for that question. But anyways, putting that aside, you know, I mean, again, like you said, Rue gets taken, you know, to the final question a lot. But you know, we literally went down, if you notice, to the last vote, because in that final one, I had the first vote, he had the second vote, and we were both just waiting for Tato, you know, for that third vote. So literally all the way complete, going the distance to the last vote. But I like to tell you, man, when I lose, I put out match of the year contenders. I can pride myself on that. Me and Chad, me and Jay,
Fair enough.
Me and Amaru may have had a new contender for match of the Battleground, you know, all timers. So I can at least take pride in that I put on entertaining matches. I know for a fact now that I can go toe to toe with a champion, like beat for beat, and come back from a deficit. I was down 2-0, and I came back, you know, basically 3-2, you know, at one point. So that I can come back from that. So that's good for my confidence. Again, like Rue said in the beginning, you never give up even when you're down. So, and I credited him for his late comeback as well. So yeah, it was really tight. I think those speed round questions could have gone either way. I think we both worked our asses off in those. But yeah, he's the champ for a reason. But I saw his face when we had to go to a final, you know, question. Not again, God damn it. But I totally get it. But yeah, so it was a fun time. I had a rough personal week this past week. So, you know, get in here and have some fun, you know, as of this taping, and again, prove that I belong in sort of these elite competitors. And you know what, Aaron, you know, I got knocked out. I didn't even get a chance to get in the first tournament I ever had a chance to get to. And then I ran through the tournament with knockouts. So the fact that I lost this title match, I'm going to get another one, and I'm going to win it next time. You watch and see.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm glad that you're at least taking the positives out of this, walking away. If you want another positive, again, the random stats that my head puts together, you're the first person not named Jay Burns to take a blind round point. So again, you can take little positives here or there. you can take the things from this. Absolutely, yeah. At 7-5 with 4 knockouts, obviously, people would look at that and say, oh, he only has like a +2 positive or whatever.
Right.
But certainly, as long as you want it, there will be an opportunity for a match prior to the tournament, and more than likely, even without the win, but certainly with a win in that match, you would be secured for a spot in that tournament come the end of the year. And I think people should absolutely be looking out for it, because it is the biggest players who take the losses come back the hardest. I mean, we look at Joe last year, who knocked out, I believe he picked up 2 knockouts over the course of that tournament. And that was following 2 losses in a row. The performances can be fueled by moments like this. So I look forward to seeing what it does for you. But with that said, sir, congratulations on the performance. And till next time, take care of yourself, as I'll put you in the back. And guys, that is the wrap up to a hell of a fucking title match. Yeah, look, these guys know how to bring it. Austin was one of the first competitors that I think embodied the entertainment aspect of it, in addition to just being a good debater. And I think we can finally say that that's paid off for him. I know I've made a lot of comments over his ascension about the fact that, at one point he was 2-3 and he was a 50-50 player as well for a long time. Despite the fact that he lost this match, I don't think there is any doubt that he is one of the elite debaters in this league now. I think he has put himself up there. He put himself to the test. He couldn't quite overcome Amaru, but very few people have, and even the one person who did then later got beat by him. So that's going to be a tough one to climb. All of these competitors stepping up are going to have a tough task ahead of them. It'll be curious to see, of the 4 on the table, who shakes out, gets that spot, and can they be the one to take it. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much again for watching this. This is the 3rd title match in a row that I've had to split into 2 parts, so I appreciate you sticking with us and watching everything through. Be sure to rate the videos, comment, subscribe, interact with the channel and the show, because we will be back next week and the remaining weeks of time with more movie. I'm committing to this for the infinity of time, with more movie Battleground matches. Although that said, on behalf of our brilliant competitors, Amaru and Austin, on behalf of our judges, Jake, Henry, and Noah, my name is Aaron Canola, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.